Hi guys, and welcome back to another fly fishing video. What we're going to do in today's video is have a more in-depth view into Euro nymphing. Now, I made a short video a couple of weeks back with an insight into Euro nymphing, and it generated quite a lot of interest. So what I've done is I've got in touch with my old mucker Spry, who's a professional fly fishing guide based in Cumbria, and he's going to help me just explain a bit more about this devastating method. So, without further ado, let's get into it. We're on the banks of the Welsh Dee, and Del's kindly offered to help me with this more advanced Euro nymphing. Del's an excellent all-round angler. He does loch style as well as river, and he's played about a lot with saltwater fishing. So Del, the river's at about 800 today. It looks pretty high. How would you approach this from a Euro nymphing perspective?
Yeah, well, it's always difficult when it's high, but you use the flies to get down to the fish and use some heavyweight tungsten beaded flies. There's all sorts out there you can use, so that's the main thing I'd be looking at, is the weight of the flies. The weight of the flies, and you actually weigh your flies. Well, I know this. I mean, we're actually here for the Hanak International Grayling Festival, and we do it every year, and Del and Graham Lumsden is usually the team, but this year we've got a star attraction in Steve Cullen, who's stepped in for Graham, and hopefully he'll do a job for us. But we've had these conditions in the past, Del, haven't we? Aye, yeah, it's normal this time of year, you know. So it comes with the territory, unfortunately. But it is what it is, and you've just got to fish to the conditions and what you've got in front of you, you know. So,
absolutely. Yeah. Okay then, Del. So we've talked about the conditions we're facing today. Tell me about your kit, mate.
Yeah, well, I try and keep everything as simple as I can, to be honest. I don't complicate it if I don't need to, you know.
Yeah.
So I generally use a 10 foot for the free weight for most of my nymphing.
Yeah, I'm the same.
Yeah, it's a standard. I have got other lengths, but that's my workhorse, is a 10 foot for a 3. Pretty simple setup. Standard indicator, which I do change throughout this sort of time of year, because you get the bad light. Yeah.
So with some of the tippet indicators, the sun perishes it and the colour diminishes, and it can be really difficult to see. Yeah. So changing it and making sure it's visible is
and you get
important.
Different light contrasts as well. So if you get a flat light, it's difficult to see your indicator. So you use waxes, thicker indicators. Generally okay.
So Del, you're saying that's your workhorse, and I know that the 10 foot, it's always a compromise. Fishing's a compromise. So ideally, for a river this size, 11 foot rod would be my preference, but then you get into a tight area and you need a shorter rod. So as Del said, the 10 foot's probably ideal as an all-rounder. But would you consider bringing 2 rods when you're fishing, Del?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, I always have a second or third rod with me, especially on a competition, you know.
Yeah.
But
so quick change.
Quick changes. Either another nymphing rod, a lighter nymphing rod, or a bung rod, or anything like that. Dry fly rod.
Yeah.
Anything. Yeah. So.
Perfect. Well, even though the river's high, we're going to give it a go. So let's get to it. Of course, when I come away to places like this, it's not all about the fishing. Just check out the beauty of the Welsh Dee. So Dell's fishing 2 nymphs, the heaviest nymph's on the point, and he's got a dropper about 1.5 feet above it. He's watching the indicator for any ticks, stops or pauses which would indicate a fish. Now once he's finished his trajectory, he casts downstream, and what this does is it loads the rod, so he's able to cast his flies back upstream. He's using the flow of the river to have a river anchor, which can then project the flies upstream. And that's Dell found his first grayling of the day. You can see his nest placement. He's got his handle down below, which he prefers. Well, Euro nymphing then. Everyone's got an opinion about Euro nymphing and everyone's got a different way of setting it up. But it is a very effective method, and I don't know any competition anglers out there that don't employ it in some guise or another. It's definitely worth learning, and certainly for winter grayling fishing, it's a phenomenal technique. Competition anglers drive the sport forward. That's just a fact. And Euro nymphing's been developed by some of the best anglers the world has ever seen. So it's definitely a technique that you should look into, and it's well worth using. I would like to take a couple of minutes to tell you about the Hanak European Grayling Festival. The competition is an annual event held on the first full weekend in December every year. Weather permitting, of course. It is a very friendly affair and a chance to catch up with friends old and new. Competition itself is fished by 3-man teams over 3 sessions. There is a captain's meeting on the Friday evening in the Hand Hotel in Llangollen, where the teams find out what beats they have been drawn on. It is also a chance for questions from car parking to minimum fish length. In practice, the fishing had been tough, and a few anglers commented on the fact that the fish between 20 and 30 centimetres seemed to be missing from the river. This may be down to a bad spawning year 2 years ago. It's hard to say. Huge numbers which we have had in previous years were not expected this year. On any one session, 2 of the team will be in the river, whilst a third member will control the beat directly above them. The competition would come down to a good work ethic and no small amount of luck. The first session saw our team, the veterans, on B6. Del Spry and Steve Cullen would fish the session. I controlled for the first session and by coincidence looked after Simon Barton and David Massey of the Welsh Dragons, whom I controlled on the Grayling Classic at Broadlands. It was a tough session for them, but they did manage to grind out 3 fish, which I thought was good for the water they had. As we hurried back to the cars, I met up with my teammates, who recorded 11 fish. This was good enough for a session win. After a very quick lunch, Steve and I fished C1. I viewed this as a damage limitation exercise, as the beat only had around 100 feet of fishable water. It was going to be tough, and we set a total of 3 fish that might keep us in the mix. We worked hard, including a bit of swimming on my part, for 6 fish, which was also good enough for another session win. We finished the day up on 2 place points, but were still being pipped by the Belgian stoneflies on fish points. An early night and everything to play for the next day on beat A5. Del and I have fished for many years together, and after being runners-up the last 2 years on the bounce, we were keen to do one better this year. Only a session win or a second would be good enough. Del got us off the mark very quickly, a fish in the first 10 minutes. This does settle the nerves in competition. We had set a target of 6 fish and were delighted to have reached that in the first 50 minutes of the session. Finishing with 15 felt like a real achievement. We both felt we could not have done better, and this was good enough for a second place. 4 place points. Would it be enough? When Huel read out the results and called the Belgian Stoneflies up for second place, it dawned on me that we had won it. I can only commend my teammates for their hard work over the competition, and to Graham Lumsden, who put in the hard miles in previous years to make this possible. The organisation this year was outstanding, and credit to Huel and his team of volunteers for coordinating the event. Thanks for watching the video, and if you enjoyed it, why not check out the Grayling Classic video on screen now.